everyone. Thank you for joining this session. This one is going to go over how to use GoToWebinar. One of the first questions I get with GoToWebinar is, can I just use GoToMeeting? The answer is yes, you can technically use GoToMeeting to deliver the workshop, but I would not recommend it. There are so many great analytics and additional features that you get when using GoToWebinar. So it is a monthly subscription plan to use it in the full functionality that you would need for the program. So if the organization you're working for does have a subscription to GoToWebinar, then this session today is going to really help you in learning how to navigate the Weed Out the Risk program using the GoToWebinar platform. So the first step is scheduling your session. So pretty easy to do. It's all very straightforward. We're going to do a little mock one here. So let's say, for example, Weed Out the Risk live workshop. We want to make that title engaging. Sometimes I put anti-crash course for Canadians. However you want to word it, but in a way that's, going to be descriptive. It's going to be live, occurs once, you put in your dates, make sure you get that time zone correct, and make sure that GoToWebinar does know where you're located, because the last thing you want is the registration page putting you, in a different time zone. And then I always hit standard and hit schedule. And that's all you need to do. You've created your event. Now you're going to have a link which you can share to potential participants, and they can, register and be part of the workshop when it's time. Now, on our event page, we want to set up a few things so participants know what's going to be going on. So first one is your description. So here you'll just put in what the workshop is about, any information that you want them to know. I often write the last 10 minutes of the workshop will have a Q&A, so they know it's interactive, and that, it's going to be that dialogue involved is in the workshop. If you're having any panelists, I know this is not a normal thing that happens in Weed Out the Risk, but if you are having any other professionals or co-facilitators join in, you're gonna use this section right here. There's never any payments with Weed Out the Risk. You should never be charging to deliver the session or anything like that, so we won't need to worry about this section here. This one is important, branding and colors. I always add in the Weed Out the Risk logo, so I can share that with you if you would like. And I put a feature image. I just put a photo of myself so they have an idea about who's going to be delivering the session. For the registration page, that when they click the link, it will come up to this page. I like to make the border green, just in line, it will align with our branding. And registration. This part is pretty important depending on the information you'd like to collect. So you could just leave it at their first name, last name, and email. But I like to also put in additional questions depending on what information I'd like to know. So for example, if I want to know if there will be any Indigenous folks in the webinar, that can be important because it can change some of the delivery strategies that I use. And so I can ask that question. Of course, with any personal question like that, you always want to leave an option, not just yes or no, but prefer not to say and things like that. You could also ask what grade the participants are in, right? If you're delivering to grade 7, it's going to be very different than grade 12. So asking the age can be valuable. Whatever information you'd like to know, you can put it in the registration questions here. Now they have preset ones for you, but you can obviously, make up your own in the question section and remove and change the format. So multiple choice, short answer, and make it mandatory that they fill it in order to complete the registration. Next is emails. So I always make sure that the email is correct and going to the inbox that I most commonly use. For example, you can see here, it's automatically associated with my payment plan, which comes from Weed Out the Risk, but I actually want folks who join the sessions to be able to email me. So I like to replace this here with my personal email. You can also adjust when the follow-up email comes in, the post emails, what information that has. So just by clicking these boxes, you can look at, what information you want to include and when that will go out. Next, engaging your attendees. So one of the big challenges I've personally found with GoToWebinar, I don't think everyone has this issue, so it's up to your rehearsals and what you find works for you. But when I screen share with GoToWebinar, the videos aren't great. Sometimes they're a bit grainy or choppy, or the audio isn't synced up quite right. So what I have to do is actually add videos. I click this button here, and the videos in the program, I've already downloaded them onto my computer, and then I'm just dropping them in here. And so it allows me to upload 5 videos. I find 5 videos is a good number to deliver in the program. We have about 21 videos. You don't need to do all of them, but if you upload them here, it makes it a lot better streaming quality for the participants. I also think that including polls is a great idea, especially at the very beginning of a webinar, as maybe students are just joining in, it's that 5-minute mark before the webinar starts, and you're just kind of chatting with people who are showing up early and things like that. You can have a poll on the screen asking, any sort of question. It could be like a fun question, like what did you do this weekend? Or it could be something related to the content, whatever you choose. But I think that that's a great strategy to getting people engaged right away. And that's all you need to know for the actual registration page. Once you've done all this, you're ready to, share it. You hit share here, copy registration link, and you can send that to all of the potential participants. Once it comes down to the actual session, the one great feature I really like about GoToWebinar is that it doesn't allow for the videos to show. Now, for some classes, they really enjoy having the videos on, and that can be valuable depending on, your situation. If you want to use Zoom, where the videos all do show of the participants, you can do that option as well. But I find with a lot of sessions that we do with Weed Out the Risk, it's nice to just have that focus just on the content and less on all of the pictures, which is easy for students to get distracted with. So, as it loads up here, I'll show you some of the features that you can use with GoToWebinar. One of the key things about GoToWebinar, if you are unfamiliar with it, is just doing some good trials as well, making sure that you rehearse with, seminar. All right, so a little bit of a long introduction there, but it just lets you know that obviously it's starting up. You're going to hit start broadcast when you're actually ready to go live. Some key features to know with GoToWebinar. So your screen sharing. That's how you're going to have the youth all see the program. But I always make sure that you hit clean screen. This way, it's not showing your tabs that are there. It's just making the content, just there. The other important thing to know is when you are deciding to screen share, you can click particular windows. I always use this because I'll have the facilitator's manual on one side of my screen, and I'm looking at the facilitator's manual to remind me of different questions to ask, what to say at which slide. Especially if you're new, you're really going to be relying on the facilitator's manual, and you want to be able to read it without having the youth see your notes. So when you hit screen share in just a particular application here, like Chrome, it allows you to just have that function. Start recording, you're obviously going to want to do that if you have youth that are going to want to see the program later, someone who couldn't attend. Webcam, pretty straightforward. And then as far as your attendees, they don't know who the other attendees are. They don't know that information. And when they ask questions or get involved in the chat, they have this panel here on the right, and they can type it in, but it will be visible so that everyone can see who asked which question. They can specify it to ask just the facilitator and not make it public. And so there is that feature about GoToWebinar that it's got a lot of anonymity to it. When it comes to showing the videos, that's a really important aspect, right? And the way you do that is by hitting share, this drop down button here, and you're going to see the videos that you uploaded. So if I'd uploaded the video Burrito Run, you would see Burrito Run written there. I just click it and it screen shares that video for them. All right, so that's how it works with doing that. That's pretty much everything you need to know about using GoToWebinar. The final piece that I'll go through, this will be more valuable for some people than others, but is having the final reporting about how involved participants were and questions that they ask. Sometimes I get, 50 questions coming in at once from all the youth, and it's hard for me during a session to read through all those and answer everyone's question. So what Weed Out the Risk does is when you go to past events and you look at, for example, if I click this webinar that had happened, I can click this section, total registrations, and you see this analytics button. You're going to click that and it will create a report for you. Now there's a few hoops you have to do to get there, but you hit build report and you can click the type of report you want. So if you had registration questions and you want to look at this is something I use before I start the webinar. I look at the registration answers and, see what grade is participating and getting that information. I'll hit the registration. It will give me an Excel document on all that information. Session overview is going to include the statistics on questions that people asked, how involved people were. So I would really use this report, and this is a great feature from GoToWebinar that you don't see in Zoom or other platforms. Thank you for joining this session. I hope that makes you feel more comfortable with how to use GoToWebinar from the registration page, using the functions during the session, and looking at the statistics post-session. Thank you.